Welcome to today's session, a new chapter, Dean's Welcome Session Pre-Arrival Webinar for Graduate Students at York University. I'm very pleased to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Alice McLaughlin, who is the Vice Provost and Dean of Graduate Studies here at York. The floor is yours, Alice.
Thank you so much, Eileen. Thank you for having me, and thank you to the whole team for setting this up. It is always a pleasure to get to do one of these webinars. I want to welcome everyone most sincerely. I can't see you. I'm glad this is your first chance to see me, and I want to say how much I'm looking forward to meeting each and every one of you this fall or this winter on campus. Welcome from me most sincerely to York University. So as you gathered from Eileen, my name is Alice and I am the Dean of Grad Studies here at York. I'm going to be taking you through a little bit about the next chapter in your academic and really your whole professional and personal lives that I'm so glad you will be spending at York University. Before I do so, I want to take a moment just to help all of us locate ourselves in space and history. And of course, since this is a virtual webinar and we are all in very different lands and territories and spaces, as I read through the land acknowledgement for York University, I hope you will take a moment to reflect on where you find yourself today and what the history and the stories and the people of that land are. So for York, First Nations people have lived on this part of Turtle Island for millennia, stewarding the land, the water, and all that contributes to life in this region. Today, the culture and presence of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people enrich the lands and people of this territory. More than 2 centuries ago, the Mississauga people welcomed settlers to this territory, providing sustenance and engaging in trade and commerce. Today, York University campuses are located on the Toronto Purchase Treaty Number 13 lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the lands of the Anishinaabeg of the Williams Treaties First Nations. Our campuses are also situated on the traditional territories of the Huron-Wendat and the Haudenosaunee. Treaty history is foundational, and it is our collective responsibility to honor the land as we honor and respect those who have gone before us, those who are here, and those who have yet to come. We are grateful for the opportunity to be learning, working, and thriving on this land, and we commit to learn the truth and be active in the process of reconciliation. And I just want to say, for those of you who will be arriving on campus and coming to York in the next few weeks and months, I hope you will take the opportunity to learn a little bit about the history and the traditional peoples of this territories. You will see that there are places and spaces on campus designed to honor that history, including a moccasin identifier right outside the subway station if you come to campus by public transit. And we are continuing to find ways as a community and as individuals to engage meaningfully with that history and what it means for our present and our future, again, individually and collectively. But most of all, what I want to say to each of you right now is how much I am glad to welcome you to this space, both virtual and material, at York University. Welcome and congratulations on your acceptance to one of Canada's top research-intensive universities. At York University, you are joining almost 6,000 graduate students from around the world. As graduate students at York, you represent the largest body of active researchers on our 3 Toronto campuses, Keele, Glendon, and Markham. So just think about that for a moment. We are a research-intensive university, but it's you, your cohort, and the cohorts who came before you that make us a research-intensive university. You are the ones who are the next generation of socially engaged, world-class, cutting-edge researchers, engaging in research creation, artistic practice, professional development for any number of professions, from law to business to public service to critical engagement in the public and private sector, and to a wide variety of social endeavor, from community activism to important NGO work around the world. At York, you will be led by internationally renowned, award-winning research faculty members, and you will end up being involved in some of the most exciting grants and projects in Canada and globally. These include our exciting Connected Minds project, which is one of the biggest grants ever to be held at a Canadian university and brings faculty members and graduate students together from engineering to cognitive science to arts and media studies to think about what it means to be connected minds, as humans, as artificial intelligence, as animals, as non-human animals in community and in engagement with one another. But fundamentally, even beyond our commitment to some of the most important research that's happening in the world today, at York, we are brought together by our strong commitment to shared values, scholarly excellence, interdisciplinarity in everything we do, collective problem solving, social justice, diversity, and this deep fundamental idea of knowledge for the public good. Our community of alumni who have gone on from graduate study at York include award-winning leading researchers and teachers, professionals, activists, and change makers of all kinds, from Oscar winners to the head of the Canadian Space Agency and past leaders of Canada's official opposition. York is there influencing communities, our country of Canada, and the world, which is pretty exciting. So that's York, and that's your place at York. Now I'm going to be a little bit more self-centered and tell you a little bit about me as the leader of the Faculty of Graduate Studies and the Faculty of Graduate Studies itself, what we do to support your journey at York. So the Faculty of Graduate Studies, which is the only pan-university faculty, so whether you are a graduate student in engineering, in science, in theater and performance studies, in education, in law, in sociology or history or economics or human resources management, as a pan-university faculty, the Faculty of Graduate Studies both governs the programs that you are enrolled in and provides essential support to you as students, to postdoc, that's postdoctoral researchers, to staff and faculty in each and every graduate program at York. We are a body of the York University Senate, which means we are one of the governing bodies who set up policy and processes for the university. We have an embedded center of excellence that supports and coordinates graduate student support services across each and every subject area, or what's sometimes called anchor faculty. So in many ways, we are the ones facilitating your graduate student experience, right from recruitment events like this one, through to ensuring that when you've put in the hard work and you've grown and you've changed as part of your journey, we are the ones helping to code you for convocation when you finish. We oversee all the institutional policies and procedures that structure what your degree and program will look like and help move you through it through each milestone. And along the way, as you as a person are actually going through it, we advocate for you. We provide services, whether these are bureaucratic services to help you with your enrollment, your petitions, your questions around academic progress, whether it's wellness services to ensure that you are thriving in every possible way, or whether it's financial services to ensure that if you have a funding package, you're receiving it, that you're able to pay your tuition and so on. And we provide key support. And I'll talk a little bit about those supports as we go on further in this webinar. We serve York's approximately 6,000 graduate students and 180 postdocs. We support the 9 resource faculties. We administer a $47 million graduate support budget on behalf of faculties. We offer over 100 graduate programs and diplomas, and we manage a $56 million scholarships and awards portfolio. But of course, those scholarships and awards are yours, so congratulations on that as well. As you can see, I'm saying congratulations a lot, and that might feel strange because you're just at the very beginning of your journey. Perhaps you are feeling a little bit of anxiety, nervousness. Maybe if you're a new master's student, you're making the transition from undergrad to graduate school. Maybe if you're a professional coming back, you haven't been in the classroom for 5, 10, 20 years. It's feeling a little strange to put that student hat back on again. Perhaps you're just gotten into the PhD program of your dreams and you're wondering, you've worked so hard in your bachelor's and your master's, but are you ready for this? You might be the first in your family to go to graduate school or even to university. That old, terrible, terrible specter of imposter syndrome might be sort of starting to creep in. You might be wondering, can I do this? I want to tell you right here and right now that you are in this webinar. You received your acceptance to a prestigious university like York because we know that you can, and you should know that you can too. So please take a moment, just a moment's reflection, to think about all the hard work, perseverance, determination, and sacrifice that got you to this moment in time. where you are listening to me as a fully accepted, ready to register, perhaps already registered graduate student at York University, and know what you have already accomplished, because it is exactly that grit, determination, talent, perseverance, drive, creativity, and willingness to learn, to grow, to accept feedback, to change, to become better. All of that is what's going to see you through those early months, those first steps to the hard middle of your program, to the final push to the end and beyond. You have what it takes, and we're here to help you bring that out as you go forward. So let's talk a little bit about your graduate student experience. First of all, let's talk about your academic experience. And here's something really crucial I want to tell you. When you were an undergrad, you may not have focused, you may have related to particular professors, perhaps to your student advisor, or you may just have gone through on your own. You may not have thought of yourself you may have thought of yourself as having a major, but I don't know how connected you were to the department that hosted that major. In graduate school, your graduate program, whether that is the graduate program in chemistry or the graduate program in economics or the graduate program in education or the graduate program in geography, this is your first point of contact for any question. Your supervisor, your course directors, the graduate program director, that's the faculty member responsible, so the professor responsible for leading the graduate program, and your fellow graduate students are all here to help with your academic questions. And then there's perhaps the most important person in your degree, and someone that I encourage you to befriend, get to know, treat with respect and kindness immediately, because they will be invaluable to you. Your graduate program assistant. So if the graduate program director is the faculty member who leads the program, the graduate program assistant is the administrative staff person who runs the program from the administrative side. These two people can answer all your questions about your degree and your program. If it's an academic question, turn to the faculty member, the GPD. If it's an administrative question, like when is enrollment? How do I open this window? I'm not getting my student number isn't working. I'm having trouble logging onto Passport York. I don't understand the window for dropping courses. I'm confused about this element of the website. The GPA, the graduate program assistant, can help you navigate the administrative side. And now is a great time to see what questions you have about both, to figure out if you can find the answers yourself using the website or your graduate program handbook. And if you can't, don't be afraid to reach out to the GPD and the GPA. So I encourage you right now, familiarize yourself with your degree requirements. If it's a master's degree, how many courses do you need to take? Is there a major research paper or a thesis or a practicum or an independent project of some kind? What are the key academic milestones and when do you have to meet them by? Is there a certain point, a certain number of terms by which you have to have a supervisor? Is there a certain number of terms by which you have to have a full PhD committee if you're a doctoral student? Does your program have comprehensive exams? What are the timelines for these? What is expected? The more you understand the timeline for your study, the more you'll be able to plan for it, budget your time, budget your energy, think about how you need to be moving forward, and have a sense of how you're doing. Now, listen, some of it isn't going to be clear until you're actually on the ground. And I know this, like I've experienced, I remember this too. It's hard to know what you're doing until you're doing it, but figure out as best you can. And just now is a really good time to drop whatever shyness or embarrassment you have about asking questions. That old adage, the only stupid question is the one you didn't ask, is a really good one to keep in mind when you're thinking about graduate school. Because let's be honest, it's a weird thing. It's a lot more school than most people ever do. And it's a different kind of school than most people ever do. So it's perfectly reasonable that everyone starting it for the first time has questions. I have questions, and basically my whole career at this point is graduate school. And I still need things explained to me by this lovely team of staff people or other lovely teams of staff people in the office. And sometimes I need things explained more than once, sometimes more than twice. And if they can be patient with me, I promise they can be patient with you. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Beyond your graduate program, keep in mind that those of us at FGS will support you throughout your academic degree. We help you navigate each academic milestone. So milestones are things Obviously, there's the courses you need to complete, but as a graduate student who's engaged in a research program, you will have key requirements or stepping stones or sort of things you need to meet at a certain time beyond courses, like getting a supervisor and a committee, finishing your research proposal, getting your dissertation ready for defense. These are what are called academic milestones, and we help you navigate them. We also help you navigate the supports you need when something doesn't go to plan. So we are responsible for academic petitions. So for example, you might need to request an exemption from a deadline or an academic regulation. Maybe you need a course extension. You need to take a leave of absence because life has come up and you aren't able to continue your studies. Maybe you're ill or someone else is ill or something like that. We help you reinstate to defend your dissertation after a leave of absence. In other words, petitions are there to take the standard degree journey and help you match your life to it and all the surprises that arise in your life. We also help you navigate different kinds of appeals to petition decisions. We'll help you understand the standards for academic standing, so like the certain standards you have to meet or the kinds of progress you have to make. FGS is here, but we're not the only one beyond your program there to help. I do recommend that you get to know the other academic supports beyond your program at York. These include student accessibility services for any of you who need academic accommodations for a disability. The Graduate Writing Center, I cannot say enough about this writing center. For many of us, even those of us who love writing and have devoted our life to it, there's loving writing and loving having written. And then there's the business of sitting down and producing the pages, particularly when you feel like it has to be your best work ever. The Writing Center can help you develop good writing habits, good editing habits, good writing practices, and can help you get over the procrastination and fear that stops you from just putting, I used to say pen to paper. I guess I mean fingers to keyboard, or who knows, voice to dictaphone, whatever works for you. York University Libraries is an extraordinary and highly underused resource for graduate students. They have so many different kinds of research support, methodology support, databases, bibliographies, research tools. They are up to date on some of the most cutting edge, high-tech methods for doing even very traditional forms of research. And I've just realized I didn't tell you my academic background. So when I am not the Dean of Graduate Studies, I am a professor in the philosophy department. We like to brag that we are the very oldest academic discipline, and we go back several thousands of years, depending on what part of the world you count from. And it is still true that I have learned how to do high-tech, up-to-date research from the York University Library. So if a philosopher can do it, so can you. And then the last thing I would mention right off the bat, in order to ensure that your graduate academic experience is as good as is possible, now is a really good time to learn about academic and research integrity at York. In your very first term of graduate study, you will be asked to complete a mandatory FGS academic integrity training module. All research ethics, including involving human and non-human animal participants, including theses and dissertations, must undergo an ethics research review before starting research. So we have two elements here. There's sort of the research ethics questions associated with academic integrity. We have an early training module with that. That will help you understand good citation practices, how to avoid concerns like plagiarism or sloppiness in research that means you're failing to appropriately attribute your sources. It does include some discussions that are related to AI. There is also a website that FGS has, a guide for the use of AI in graduate research. I encourage you to familiarize yourself with that as well. And then as you go on, so then when you get from sort of basic academic work to research, you get into research ethics questions that go beyond questions of plagiarism and citation practices and sort of attributing research to questions of how to engage with human participants in your work, non-human participants in your work, how to think about it if your work engages with traditional Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous knowledge keepers and communities. And this can be, and how to do this really well, living up to the highest standards of ethics and responsibility. And our ethics review process in FGS will help ensure that you are doing research with care as well as careful research. So these are some resources to help you navigate the academic side of things at York. Just to recap, There's your graduate program, there's FGS, there's other academic supports, student accessibility, the Writing Center, York University Libraries, and then we encourage you to spend some time learning about academic and research integrity at York, and this can be done on the FGS website as well. So that's the academic side of things. But of course, there is life beyond the sort of strict academic curriculum in graduate school. And all of you will have already found that your particular curiosity and drive has already taken you past the bare minimum requirements of your academic degrees, or you wouldn't be here right now today. So what is there to learn beyond the curriculum? First of all, I encourage you to professionalize your degree, to think about why you are doing this degree and what you are doing, not just to live up to the requirements that are set for you by the program, but to challenge yourself to think, what do I want to get out of this master's degree or this doctoral degree or this graduate diploma? How can I ensure that I am achieving and maximizing my own personal aspirations and goals? In order to facilitate this process, to give it structure, to make sure that you're bringing that in from the very beginning and carrying it through your degree, FGS has developed what's called an Individualized Development Plan, or an IDP. This is a tool and a resource that you can bring to your supervisor, an advisor, your graduate program director, and sit down with them to make sure you are taking advantages of all the resources that are available, or that you are sort of following up on possible resources, that you are ensuring that you are maximizing your chances of developing the kinds of skills, connections, applications, and engagement that will help you meet your career goals after the degree. One kind of professional development that many graduate students at York engage in is teaching. Not everyone who does a graduate degree goes on to be a teacher at either the university or high school or other levels, but teaching and learning to share one's work with others, to lead seminars, is a crucial part of the professional skills you develop here. And I encourage you to find out how you can, what's the word I'm looking for? Ameliorate and improve your own teaching skills by using the resources at the Teaching Commons, specifically available for graduate students. So those are some key professional development skills. I also encourage you to get involved wherever possible. So beyond the sort of basic curriculum, go to talks, to workshops, to conferences that are being held in your program or maybe in related cognate programs. You know, if you're here to do, if you are here to study physics and astronomy, it might be worth going to hear some talks in the math department. If you are really interested in social anthropology, you might find that the colloquium series in gender, feminist, and women's studies, or sociology, or social and political thought also has relevance to you. Maybe some of your favorite thinkers and speakers are coming to one of the ORUs. Those are the organized research units or research centers at York. It's worth figuring out which ones are in your area. And if you're not sure or you don't know where to look, again, this is a time to practice asking questions. Never be afraid to ask your supervisor, a faculty member you trust, an older student in the program, someone from a higher cohort, or your graduate program director. What would you recommend I look into for going to hear more talks, for going to more workshops, for going to conferences? Don't be afraid to explore the electronic and the physical resources and the remarkable staff at York University Libraries. Go check out our archives. They're amazing. There are some extraordinary early editions there that I highly recommend. Challenge yourself to go beyond your own field. York prides itself on interdisciplinarity, but sometimes we forget to bring that into our own research. So I said, if you're interested in physics and astronomy, go to a talk in math, or if you're in social anthropology, go to a talk in sociology. But if you're in physics and astronomy, go to a talk in sociology. If you're in social anthropology, try out a math colloquium. This is a wonderful opportunity to see all the really neat, sparking ways that research across wildly different disciplines can come together to create something truly new. And after you're done listening to talks, challenge yourself to step into the spotlight. Maybe you can give a talk at a colloquium, at a workshop, maybe even a professional conference. If that feels like too much too soon, start with a graduate conference. Learning to love this conference spotlight is a key professional skill that graduate students can develop and graduate studies can teach. And then you might also, particularly for those in more professional programs, think about looking into internship possibilities or perhaps research possibilities with faculty members. See what's available and what you can challenge yourself to take up. Beyond expanding your intellectual horizons, we encourage you to expand your personal horizons. And the best way to do that is to get involved. Join your program's Graduate Student Association. Look into YUGSA. YUGSA is the York University Graduate Student Association. This is if you like, the student government for graduate students. They represent each and every one of you as graduate students at York. They're here to advocate for you, to support you, to sort of speak up on your behalf. They will also help you out if you're running into trouble with the institution, even with us for some reason. They're always there to be on your side, and it's worth connecting with them early. Look for affinity groups, interest groups, maybe something that speaks to your identity, to the causes you're committed to your activism, or just your hobbies and interests. It doesn't all have to be deep and meaningful activism. Perhaps you want to join a knitting and crochet group or an ultimate frisbee league or something like that. It's important to remember that you might be a researcher or a professional student, but you are still a human and you need to tend to your whole person. Explore York's phenomenal recreational facilities, see what's available to you for that very small but very important downtime that you have. And then, of course, don't forget that you're also in a world-class city. So while you're at York, don't forget to explore Toronto. We have phenomenal museums, art galleries, parks, places to go along the waterfront, bikes that you can rent to explore the city. If you like food, we are a foodie city, and it is almost a shame not to enjoy that a little bit. If you're missing food from home, I promise somewhere in Toronto, there is a little pocket of your home where they are making that food. So you can go find that as well. And then, of course, and maybe I mean this most of all, don't forget to take care of yourself. Um, you are the most responsible for taking care of yourself, but lots of us are here to help. One crucial resource at FGS is grad wellness services. You can make appointments to speak to our wonderful counselor one-on-one, but there are also peer support groups. There's a grad wellness certificate that you can take, which helps you develop healthy habits and practices for managing self-care while engaged in long independent research projects. In addition to our grad wellness services, remember to connect with student accessibility services if you need to get accommodations in place. That's on the student side of things. If you're also an employee at York, if you're also working perhaps as a teaching assistant, make sure you connect with employee well-being to get work accommodations in place. So grad wellness at FGS, accommodations through student accessibility services and employee well-being, and then more informally, as best you can, create a community. Graduate study is extraordinary and transformative. Sometimes, especially in humanities and social sciences disciplines, it can be a little bit solitary. So take the opportunity to build community, whether in your cohort of incoming students or in students across your program or in various groups and so on. But make sure you are reaching out to others and you are responding when they reach out to you, because it's much harder to do this alone. But you can do it. Okay, so that is your graduate student experience, both the academic side and beyond that academic curriculum. But that's a lot to think about in July before you start. So I want to say a little bit about some things you can do right now, right in this date and time before classes start. And I would start by introducing yourself. Don't be afraid to reach out to your program with any questions that you have. Remember, the GPD, that's the grad program director, the faculty member in charge of the program, the professor, and the GPA, that's the graduate program assistant or administrator, that's the staff person in charge of the program. These two work together in a pair. They are your first point of contact. They'll be able to answer your specific questions best, because you're all graduate students, but it's slightly different if you're a master's or a PhD, if you are going into engineering or into environmental science. And so your GPD and GPA will be able to tell you what it's like for you in this particular program. Make sure on top of that you check out the FGS You've Been Admitted website to stay on top of your preparations for September. This will take you through the steps to make sure you're wholly prepared for when you show up on campus. Plan to attend, if at all possible, your program's orientation and the Faculty of Graduate Studies Grad at York Fair on September 8th. I know that won't be possible for everyone, particularly those who are traveling for overseas. And there will be a Grad Forward series from FGS, a series of webinars where we introduce you to different supports and elements of what we can do to help. But if at all possible, try to attend those orientations. It's a wonderful way to start off. Don't forget to register for the fall, and if you can, the winter term. And if you can, familiarize yourself with the York website so you know where things are. Explore the FGS website, figure out where the funding information is, where petitions are, where you can learn more about your graduate program, and so on. And then once you get here, give yourself a day to walk around and explore the York campus. You're probably going to want to know which is your coffee shop, or what corner of the library you think would be the best place for you to hole up and work, or how many minutes it takes to get from the subway to where your program is, so that when you're planning your commute, you know how long it'll take to walk across campus. In terms of thinking about graduate studies and being a graduate student, there's two web series that FGS puts out that I highly encourage you to visit. One is called Knowledge Now. This is where your current York graduate students present their research. This is a way for you to learn about the kind of cutting edge graduate research that's happening in the community you've just joined. You can maybe imagine doing one of these webinars yourselves in a few years. So that's seeing what graduate students do. And then the other one is our Scholarly Skills series. And this is a series of decano led. So most of them are by me with a couple of special guests and friends to help me out, that talk you through the key strategies, tools, and skills you'll need to succeed in graduate school and beyond. There's webinars on publishing your work, learning to give conference papers, thinking about starting a major research project, getting ready for a defense, navigating the ethics review process, presenting your work to the public, learning to talk to the public, working with AI, understanding intellectual property as a graduate student, working with primary sources and archives, managing your stress, putting your stress to work, holding a growth mindset, thinking about project management tools, basically anything you can think of that would help you engage in graduate studies. You can find really informative, thoughtful, I hope, entertaining webinar in our Scholarly Skills archive. And finally, and I know I keep hammering this home, don't forget to ask questions. And if you're feeling too shy to ask a question to anyone else, there's always us. We are here to help. So don't be afraid to reach out via our social media channels or fgsinfo@yorku.ca. That's fgsinfo@yorku.ca. So that's really it for me in terms of me talking at you. I do want to take a moment to thank you for joining me today and to welcome you to York, to remind you of the graduate program contacts that you can find available and just where to find the Faculty of Graduate Studies. So you can follow our website there. You can also, if you don't want to just use the website, we have many, many social media channels. I have to say, I'm very biased and also obviously as a professor, very old, but I think our social media team is phenomenal and I recommend that you check them out. I would say they are definitely above average for a university social media team, and they're one of my favorite reasons to log on to Instagram. So do check them out by staying updated, following, liking, and subscribing. Thank you so much. We have lots of time left, so I would like to take a moment to turn away from what I think you should know towards what you might actually want to ask. So let me see what we can answer. Okay, so we have a question about funding packages. So funding packages are based on your program and are standard for many programs. Some programs come with set funding packages and some do not. That has to do with sort of the nature of the program and so on. There are also some competitive entry scholarships that are made at the time of offer. However, many or most graduate students at York will also have the opportunity to apply for both external and internal scholarships and awards. If you are concerned about your level of funding or frustrated that you were not in a program that provides funding as a matter of course, I would encourage you to look into the many internal and external scholarships and awards that are available to apply for as York students. All right. Now I see that many of the questions have been answered. I'm just going through this to see if there's anything that might be useful. I see there is a question about the resources being sent by email. And I can say that I'm happy to report that our team will send out an email with links on the YouTube channel, and also a PDF of the slides will be shared at the end of the presentation. So if I went through anything too quickly, or you still had questions, or you weren't able to copy a link down, don't worry. You will be able to get these at the end. There is also a question about doing research if you're in a professional program like a Master's of Biotechnology Management. And the answer is the program requirements are set by program. So if you've applied to a professional program that doesn't have a research option as part of it, no, your program requirements are set by your program. However, this is a time for me to say, you're always welcome to come back and do a research degree. So if you come to York and you find that you're even more challenged to think about difficult questions and to pursue sort of how abstract knowledge can make a difference in the world around us, you might find that after doing a Master's of Biotechnology Management, you look at some of the research masters offered in the Faculty of Science in biology or biotechnology in particular. Okay, here is a lovely question. I want a lot of guidance from my professors. I feel bad about going to them a lot. How many times is too many times to visit them in office hours? I want to say this is an incredibly thoughtful question and already tells me a lot about you as a student and as a person, that you were thinking about that. There isn't going to be a set number. Like, I'm not going to say you can visit your professors exactly 3 and only 3 times per semester. What I would say is think about how best you can use your time and your professor's time so that it's satisfactory to you and to them, and you're making the best use of that time. So what you might want to do is, if you're the kind of person who notices you have questions popping up over and over again, maybe keep them in a notebook and decide you're going to go to office hours once you've reached 6 questions or once you've reached 10 questions. Or talk to the professors and say, on your first visit to their office, hi, Professor so and so, they'll probably say, oh, please call me Steve. And you'll say, okay, thank you, Steve. Or they won't say that. And then you keep calling them Professor so and so. You know, I I find I'm the kind of person who has a lot of questions. I don't want to take advantage of your time. I know others may need it. What would you like in terms of my questions? Would you like me to wait until I have a number and email you? Is it okay to keep coming to office hours? Do you have a sense if your office hours tend to be busy or not? And they'll give you an answer. They might say, why don't you send me all your questions? Because actually, many people might have these and I can answer them in class without putting you on the spot. Or they'll say, you're welcome to come to my office hours every week. No one does. Or they might say, you're welcome to come, but right before tests, everyone's going to want to come. So I'm going to ask you to be thoughtful about how much time you take up and so on. But this is a reasonable question to ask and a reasonable question to be answered. And thank you for asking it. I think that will mean a lot to the professors that you care. Just be respectful of their time and attention, but never be afraid. If you need the help, it's reasonable to ask for it. Okay, can I speak to the ability to take undergraduate courses and what constitutes academic necessity in the context of graduate degrees? So this is one of those questions where I would encourage you to speak to the graduate program director first, because the answer is going to vary by program. It is possible under some circumstances to apply for permission to take an undergraduate course. If you can explain how it's necessary for your degree in some way, or there is no graduate course available. You might also find it's possible to arrange for a directed reading in association with the undergraduate course, but this is going to vary widely by program and degree. So what I encourage you to do is, this is exactly the kind of question it's a really good idea to bring to the GPD. And if you can even say, what the course is and why you think you want to take it, that should be quite helpful for them in answering it. How can I enter in my yorku.ca email? Eileen, maybe you could post a link to some help with getting email and Passport York, as there is a link for support with this, but I can't recall it off the top of my head. And then there is another question about paying PhD tuition, and maybe we could provide a link to funding page, there's information about the deadline for tuition and when funding is paid. I will say it's worth taking a look at the FGS, that's the Faculty of Grad Studies website on funding, because you'll find information about how your funding package breaks down and at what points different elements of it are paid. So part of it is a fellowship that will be paid by term, and other parts of it are employment that will be paid monthly. So it's worth understanding what comes in where so that you can ensure that you can pay your PhD tuition. The other thing to do that I highly recommend on that site is you can make an appointment with a funding advisor. And I would encourage you to do that as soon as possible. Talk to one of our funding advisors, make an appointment, explain your financial circumstances. I am relying entirely on the funding that's coming from York. I'm not quite sure of the timing of me paying tuition and me getting paid by York for my work as a TA. However, it's very important to me that I pay my tuition in time. Can you help me understand? They will be happy to help you. Um, I see that there are some questions being asked and answered about getting final official transcripts to York via MyCreds. Thank you, Eileen, for answering this. This is something that our recruitment and admissions team is very happy to answer and to sort out. And they can absolutely work on that with you. Okay, let's take a look at this. I believe that all of you can see the questions even after they have been answered. I do encourage you to look through these. There's questions about booking spaces in the library and how to do it. Eileen has provided the link. There's questions about studying abroad for research purposes. You can absolutely do that. There was one question that got asked that I think has been answered, but I wanted to bring it up because it's important to know. Yes, is there money available to students to attend conferences outside of Toronto? And this is an important thing to draw your attention to. I wanted to draw your attention to FGS's Academic Excellence Fund. This is a fund available to graduate students in research programs at York and one of the things it's there for is to help you disseminate. That means like spread your research knowledge, your work, by speaking at conferences, traveling for research purposes, getting help with publication. There's a number of research purposes, and you can apply up to a certain amount. And based on the amount of money that's available and how many people applied, we distribute it as best we can. But everyone can get some support for their own research from us for this. Okay, here are some more open questions. Are there TA-ships available for MA students? This does vary by program. Most MA programs at York are a fellowship model. What that means is if you have a funded package, that funding is entirely a fellowship. The money is yours, and all we ask for you in return is that you work as hard as possible and do as well as possible in your master's program. We do that in large part because we see research master's programs as short transitions either to the wider workforce or to the doctoral program. And we know it's a very short timeline in which we are asking you to do a lot of very advanced work. And so it makes sense to ensure that students can focus on that work and aren't split between TA and coursework. All right, are there awards available to part-time students? This is a great question. So are the awards only available to full-time status students? Why is that often the case? Part-time students need support too. And I would say, yes, you are right. Part-time students need support too. There are some awards and scholarships available to part-time graduate students at York. There are not enough awards and scholarships available to part-time students at York. And that is something that as Dean, I have been working to change. One of the things I was very proud to be able to do was to bring in to fundraise for a set of FGS 60th anniversary awards that were aimed specifically at supporting part-time students with their tuition. I think the reasoning is part-time tuition is lower. Often students are doing school part-time because they are also working, but I agree with you that that's not the whole story. And it is my hope that we will continue to grow the number of awards and scholarships that are available to part-time students. Thank you for asking that. Okay. Someone is asking, they have a potential thesis supervisor already, congratulations, to whom they have already reached out. Should they want to explore committee members? When is the best time to reach out to them, as I am starting my program in September as a part-time student? First of all, congratulations. If you've already started talking to a thesis supervisor, you are well on track. My suggestion would be to say, hold off on other committee members for now, because this is a conversation you'll want to have with your thesis supervisor. And likely the two of you will be reaching out to other committee members together, or at the very least, the thesis supervisor will be giving you advice and feedback about how best you could sort of plan to support your whole work by sort of, who would complement their perspective and research excellence and particular focus well, their specialization. And so I would hold off at least until you've met with them a few times. And I think they'll tell you the same thing. So wait till September, make an appointment to talk to them early, and then you can start to plan from there. That was a great question. Okay. On publication, do the students writing theses publish parts of their theses during the research writing process? Or is this usually done afterwards by cutting, editing it down to a focused topic? Does this help you at all in terms of academic credit? Great question. Let me start at the end. Does this help you in terms of academic credit? Yes and no. Most programs don't have publication as one of the academic requirements. So it's not like this would be a key milestone you would need to meet your degree, although some may. It is also true that in some programs, work that you have worked on and published can still be part of your dissertation, but it's not usually a requirement that you have to have published it. Having said that, learning to prepare your work for publication, going through the process of editing it, submitting it, responding to feedback, which usually asks for revisions, addressing the various concerns raised by external reviewers, resending it out again, and so on, can certainly help you in terms of your own academic trajectory and what you learn from it and how you might become a better writer or researcher as a result of that. So it can help you. It just isn't typically like an academic requirement in the sense that a course is. In terms of whether students publish parts during or afterwards, I would say both. Some students will prepare some central argument or analysis that they did, or sort of a key set of results during their thesis process. In fact, they may even need to do it to have it sent out for publication because there's a delay. And in order to move on to the next stage, they need to have a publication in hand. So for the academic job market. Others will spend a year or two after they finish their PhD preparing parts of it for publication as journal articles, or perhaps all of it as a book. This will vary widely. Both are all right. And I would say, here's another example of where you should talk to your program, maybe not emailing your GPD and GPA now, but once you get into the program, talking to your advisor or to other older students in the program to find out what they're doing, what tends to be the norm, how to think about it, whether they have advice for you, and so on. This is where students in upper years and older cohorts can be so helpful, because they understand better than anyone what it's like to be in your program at York at this time, what people tend to do here. And so they'll be able to give you really concrete, experientially informed advice. Okay. I finished my undergrad a longish time ago. Congratulations, and congratulations for coming back. You're coming back to academia recently. Are there specific resources at York that can help get me up to speed? That's a great question. First of all, I suspect you'll be fine, especially people who have often been out of school for a while may find that their time in other pursuits has sort of crystallized their motivation and also given them really good long-term work habits. So you may find that you are even better prepared than you would have been if you had continued right afterwards. I would encourage you to look at the library resources. Some of the things that may have changed may include research methodologies or key texts in the field, and the databases and sort of discipline-specific databases in the library may be helpful. You might also want to ask your GPD this question. If your degree has a core seminar or a PhD seminar or a key method seminar, you might see if you can get the syllabus a little bit early to look at some of the most recent articles or texts or key resources that can talk about, what your discipline looks like in 2026 that maybe it didn't look like whenever you were last in school. But I think you'll be fine. I don't think you need to worry. Okay. I have So specific funding questions are great questions to ask. There's a question here about getting a standard funding package from one program and a TA offer from another faculty. Can you combine both funding for your studies? So first of all, it is true that often your TA assignments are outside of your program and may even be outside of your faculty. This is just based on, need for teachers where they are across the university. So I wouldn't worry about that. But if this is an offer of employment in addition to your funding package, what I would encourage you to do would be just to consider reaching out to one of our funding advisors to ask for their advice. You can make a one-on-one appointment really easily through the website, and this is probably the best way to get very specific answers. And they're wonderful and lovely, and they will give you very clear answers. I have a thank you from my guest. I'm so glad that this information session was helpful. I cannot tell you, doing these is one of the great pleasures of my job. I don't get to meet you today. I really hope I get to meet a lot of you in September. Please feel free to come up to me and introduce yourselves. I am always very happy to meet new and not new graduate students, to learn about what you're doing, to learn about what you're thinking about, what excites you about graduate school. You're also welcome to give me your complaints, frustrations, and fears. We're here for that, and we're here to help. I think I'm going to answer maybe just one or two more questions, and then I'm going to wrap things up. So there's a question about an MA program that doesn't allow TA positions. As I said earlier, many of our MA programs at York do not include TA work. That is a decision that is largely intended to help you focus on your studies to prepare for the PhD. Um, they are not, TA positions are not typically part of our master's degree in many areas of the university. There are some disciplines, particularly in the sciences, that are exceptions, but we encourage you, especially if you're excited about teaching and teaching experience, work really hard on the master's and consider applying to a PhD program. Then you will get lots and lots of assistance and help and lots of opportunities to do TA work. Okay, and I will take one last question. So there's a question about completing 4 courses and beginning writing your thesis afterwards. I would talk, this sounds like I would need a little bit more information, but my suggestion would be talk to the GPD in translation studies. They will have advice about the best way to do it. They may actually say, I know that sounds logical, but you might want to start your thesis earlier, or at least meet with your supervisor earlier, or set things up. I can't speak to this. I am not a translator, but I would encourage you to talk to the GPD in translation studies to get some help with that. Thank you all. Thank you so much for your questions. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. Thank you for choosing York and for being part of this extraordinary cohort of graduate students and graduate studies. I cannot tell you how excited I am to see what each and every one of you does while you're at York and what you do afterwards. Best of luck, and I'll see you on campus. Thank you so much.